Japan said it will not support any U.S. requested sanctions against Iran, which may endanger its vital Iranian oil supply. Without mentioning them by name, President Carter criticized some of this country's allies for seeking U.S. leadership and protection, and then begging off when asked to help out in a crisis. Mr. Carter told the American Society of Newspaper Editors that some nations are wary of the obligation of alliance.
The nations ask us for leadership, but at the same time, they demand their own independence of action. They ask for understanding, yet they often decline to understand us in return.
The president also accused the Soviet Union of appalling inhumanity in Afghanistan. He said he will take legal action if need be to keep American athletes from attending the Summer Olympic Games in Moscow. The president also used that occasion to lash out at his political rivals. Two of the men who'd like to become president weren't able to counterattack. Ted Kennedy and John Anderson spoke before the same newspapermen's gathering. Details from Scott Barrett.
The man in the White House, Jimmy Carter, has had a pack of howling presidential hopefuls lashing at his leadership ability. In response to the latest Ronald Reagan charge that U.S. weakness caused the Iranian crisis and the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, the president called the claim ridiculous.
That line of argument that an invasion of a sovereign country with 100,000 troops or the taking over of a compound with innocent American hostages is somehow the fault of the United States or its president is completely fallacious.
But before the same gathering, Ted Kennedy continued to howl against Carter's leadership, not on the foreign affairs battleground, but on the economic battleground.
Yes, on this issue, at this time, the major direction for leading this country lies at the footsteps of the President of the United States, just as it did with President Kennedy in the early 1960s, when we reduced unemployment from 7% to 3.5%.
Kennedy says Carter needs to deal with reality, not rhetoric. Republican longshot John Anderson feels the same way, only his party is different. And if Anderson chooses to run as an independent, he doesn't want to form a third party.
I have to decide, in view of what I perceive to be the mood of the American people, the growing dissatisfaction with the limited choices that would be presented by the nominations of President Carter and Governor Reagan, whether or not I have some obligation, therefore, to extend the range of that choice.
Anderson thinks he will draw equally from Carter and Reagan if he runs independently in November. And as for the president, he is still running harder than he was a few short weeks ago. In Washington, Scott Barrett.
Some good news for the consumer this morning. There's been a dramatic drop in meat prices all across the country, plunging to their lowest levels in more than a year. But those bargains could be very short-lived. The government says beef prices will go up in the next 3 months, as will the cost of sugar and soft drinks. Another bit of good news is retail pork and egg prices should be going down in the months ahead.
This is Mayor Ed Koch. During the transit strike, I'm asking everyone who lives, visits, and works in New York City to help make our emergency transportation plan work. Whenever possible, walk or ride a bike. Exercise is good for your health and is good for the city's health, too. Employers should make every effort to provide their employees with places to store those bikes. Group riding and taxi cabs is permitted during the strike. We're trying to bring this strike to an end as quickly as possible. Learn the emergency transportation plan and help make it work. Thank you.